G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the Arsehole? With that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and let's get right into it. Am I the arsehole for wanting to wear a suit for my wedding? So for my high school graduation, I received a tailored suit. Before then, I had been a chronic t-shirt and jeans kinda girl, having one ugly black dress to wear for weddings, funerals, parties, bar mitzvahs, and just general events. I hated it. I hated making an effort to dress up, and even now, I still really don't like skirts or dresses at all. But I absolutely fell in love with the way that I looked in a suit. I wore that suit like it was a second skin. Since then, I've been a little bit obsessed with men's fashion. I have at least a dozen suits of various models, fabrics, and colors. All of them are bespoke, meaning that they were made from scratch and personally fitted, which is admittedly rather expensive. But I use them frequently, both for work and socially, and I take very good care of them. None of them are what you would call a woman's pantsuit, as I'm not very fond of the cut, but simply regular suits tailored to my figure. My fiance, of about 5 years, normally doesn't comment much on my style. There used to be some arguments in the beginning, where he would buy me skirts or earrings as gifts. I don't even have pierced ears. But eventually he accepted the fact that I'd have more use of a good pair of cufflinks, or a ring, or just pretty much anything else. We've booked the venue for our wedding on a date a little over a year from now, and we have been throwing around some wedding ideas here and there. Yesterday, I asked him if he had any ideas about what kind of suit he wanted. He doesn't really care about fashion, and normally lets me dress him. But I wanted to know if I should book my regular tailor for both of us or not, so that we could perhaps go get fitted together. Make a day of it, you know? My fiancé was very shocked that I wasn't going to get a wedding dress. I was very shocked that he thought that I would, since I haven't worn a dress in at least 10 years. We've been arguing since last night, and neither of us have really calmed down yet. He is furious that I wouldn't even wear a dress for a single day for our wedding, and claims that our wedding would look ridiculous if I had a suit, as if he was marrying a lesbian in denial, and that all he wanted was a wedding with a beautiful bride. I told him that he should wear the dress so that I didn't have to have a wedding with an ugly groom. We tried to talk it out earlier today, but we were still too mad to get anywhere, so we've decided to not bring it up right now. But I know that he hasn't changed his opinion, and obviously neither have I. I have always wanted to wear a suit for my wedding, and even if it's just for a day, I would still have a bunch of photos and memories, probably even the dress, so I wouldn't just forget that I couldn't have the wedding that I wanted. Am I the asshole? And now in the comments, I don't think you should marry someone who hates your choice of fashion. Info: why hasn't this come up sooner? And OP replies, I'm pretty sure it has. I used to send him a lot of wedding pictures, including women getting married in suits, but since, well, they were all lesbian weddings, I guess he thought it was more of an aren't weddings nice kind of thing, rather than a this image applies to me, even though I intend to marry you, a man. Maybe he didn't think that I was serious until I started talking about booking a suit fitting. So you were sending him photos of different wedding attire, but never once said, I want to wear a suit like this when we get married. If you didn't say that, it sounds like he took the photos of lesbian weddings the wrong way, given his closet lesbian comment. Yeah, I think his closet lesbian comment was tactless, but from OP's comment above, I can see where his suspicions come from. You think that it makes sense that when his girlfriend, who regularly wears suits, sent him pictures of women getting married in suits, he assumes that she was trying to come out as a lesbian in the most bizarre way ever, rather than that she liked wedding suits? I don't think that she was trying to come out, but clearly he didn't get what she was getting at since she never told him, and his comment indicating lesbians are the ones who wear suits, sometimes at weddings, isn't far off, considering she's been sending him pictures of exactly that. It's odd. It's really not odd. She wears suits regularly, which is uncommon for straight women, so she likely looks at queer fashion regularly for inspiration. There is no reason he would suddenly get confused about whether or not she's a lesbian based on this. Everyone sucks here. People have covered why your fiance is an asshole, but I feel like you're playing dumb when you say that you were shocked that he wanted you to wear a wedding dress at your wedding. You have every right to deviate from the norm, but you've been engaged this long and you never thought to mention that you didn't want to wear a wedding dress? I never wear dresses isn't an excuse. Many dudes never wore a tux in their lives, but they still do at their wedding. Again, you can wear what you want, but if you don't care how your partner feels about it, why are you marrying him? I feel like your tux comment is a bit of a false equivalence. It's more like asking him to wear a kilt, which is completely foreign and completely reasonable to say hell no to. Dresses and pants feel very different to wear and require very different levels of vigilance to avoid wardrobe malfunctions, especially big puffy wedding dresses that often put the bride in the position of needing help going to the bathroom. And now on to the update. I decided on suggesting that I wear a dress for a while during the wedding before changing into a suit, so we had a talk after dinner. Long story short, he hates my suits. Hates them. I think I kind of knew already that he didn't like them, or at least he's never complimented me, but he absolutely hates them. Hates that I don't have any feminine clothing, hates that I never pierced my ears, hates that I don't wear makeup very often, and that I don't really shave my legs regularly, and that I don't have any nice bras, and that none of my hobbies are very feminine. He hates that I only look like a woman when I'm naked. We didn't raise our voices. We didn't shout. I just listened as he calmly told me how much of me that he hates. The fact that I didn't want to dress for our wedding was just the nail in the coffin, and it proved that I would never get any better. And now in the comments, well, easier to cancel a wedding than to get a divorce. Agreed. Every cancelled wedding is an averted divorce, and therefore a blessing. But how wild is it that they've made it all the way to the point of deciding to get married, while he was hating so much of how she looked, acted, and dressed every single day? Like, who did he think that he was marrying? Apparently, her 5 years of dressing like a lesbian in disguise was just a phase in his mind. Not a nice attitude toward the woman you love. She deserves better. I can't imagine dating someone whose aesthetic you hate so much, or staying with someone who would buy me skirts that I didn't want and earrings while I didn't have my ears pierced. I mean, the red flags were clearly there. Yeah, those weren't gifts, they were hints. Hints. That's a neat way to spell non-verbal directive, because that is clearly what he thought they were. My ex would buy me clothes in the style that his older sister wore from the same store. He also said that he didn't date blondes and prefers brunettes since all of his sisters are blonde. I'm blonde, and so is his ex. He also told everyone repeatedly about how his sister would crush all of the siblings' heads with her thighs because she was a strong volleyball player. I don't know, but I think he wanted to date his sister. My grandmother was married in a suit. Sure, it did have a skirt, but it was a sharp, tailored suit. Beautiful cream number. This was something like 60 plus years ago. She and my mother have an ongoing joking argument that my mother wants to take the suit after my grandmother dies, to which my grandmother says good luck. She's planning to be buried in it. And my mother replies that she's not opposed to some light grave robbing. This conversation is a holiday tradition, and it's always funny. Anyway, dude has some pretty major issues. Did he think that if she wore a dress at the wedding that she would magically become more feminine overnight? Her aesthetics and hobbies would just change? Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my daughter that she cannot marry a racist?" So for some background, my wife and I worked and lived in a somewhat larger city where my daughter was born. My wife got a job opportunity in one of her employer's field offices, and it was too good to pass up. We moved to the boonies when my daughter, Amy, was a preteen, and we've been here ever since. The people are nice, but we were quickly labeled as city folk, and so we never really integrated very well. Amy came back this summer between her freshman and sophomore year. She got a summer job, which is where she met her fiancé, Dan. We have had him over to the house countless times since then, and he's polite, respectful, and he seems to truly love my daughter. He is a local, and his family have been locals for generations. We rarely met up with his parents, but they also seemed nice when we did. They dated long distance all throughout her college years. This past summer, they got engaged. His parents decided to throw an engagement last weekend at their house. We had never been there, and I was excited to see the home where he grew up and meet his extended family. The party was fine. We did our best to fit in, but, like I mentioned, we were from the city, and they poked fun just a little bit. His dad gave a speech, and while it wasn't overtly racist, he mentioned how he was happy that his son found a nice white girl and was looking forward to white grandbabies. As the night progressed, they started to share a bit of family history so that we would know the proud lineage that our family would now be a part of. Without going into too much detail, they are descendants from members of a hate group. We decided to be polite and not say anything, but we didn't stay much longer. I let this stew for a few days until Amy returned home. She tells me that she was not aware of his family history, but it doesn't change her mind. I don't want her marrying into this family, and I told her so. She says Dan doesn't wholly believe what his parents do, but I'm not convinced. You can't be raised to believe that you're of a superior race and not have it become internalized to some degree. She assures me that they have a lifetime for her to point out all the ways his parents are wrong, but I am worried that if they never leave his hometown, there will be too much pushback from his family. I told her that I'm going to be firm on this, that I don't want her marrying into that family. She called me an asshole and has been ignoring me ever since. I feel horrible, but this isn't what I'd hoped for her. So is she right? Am I being an asshole? And now in the comments, you would be the asshole. Your heart is in the right place, and you can voice your opinions against it, but at the end of the day, it'll be her choice. I would advise talking to Dan himself, in private if possible, though I'm a black person myself, and you would be surprised how often the least racist kids come from the worst parents. And edit, I just want to add that you would be totally within your rights to explain to her that you do not want any of those traditions passed down to any potential grandkids. I shudder to think how those people react to a grandchild dating a person of color. How will the daughter and son-in-law handle that? What if they can't have kids and adopt a person of color? If the kids have a plan for that kind of stuff, maybe they'll be okay. These are all legitimate potential problems. It all comes down to how the daughter and Dan handle these situations. Ultimately, they will decide what values they want to embrace and pass on, and I'm sure the grandparents will make anything progressive a nightmare, but it would be unfair to blame Dan for his parents' failures as human beings, and you can't expect society to become more tolerant by denying people the chance to break away from the shitty opinions of the generation before them. Agreed. I used to work in a middle school and dealt with some very overtly racist parents whose kids just wanted to date or hang out with their school friends of other races, and thought of all sorts of clever ways to subvert the parents. That being said, it is telling that the fiancé didn't say anything or try to stop his father. Not the asshole. Ultimately, your daughter is an adult and can and will do whatever she wants, even if it means marrying a racist. But you are obviously within your right to abhor racism and make that stance clear. In fact, this is the kind of reaction to racism that you and everyone should have, especially when it still runs so deeply and rampantly like in Dan's family. You are right that racism has been ingrained into Dan, and from what your daughter says, he doesn't wholly believe what his parents do, and that she has a lifetime to convince Dan that racism is wrong. I think she knows that too. It will be very difficult, but you may have to come to terms with the fact that your daughter is accepting of this disgusting ideology, evidenced by the fact that she wants to marry into it, and adapt your relationship with her to that fact, whatever that looks like. At the same time, while you can't limit her, you certainly are not the asshole should you opt to distance yourself and have no part in paying for or attending the wedding. It comes down to how bothersome the racism is to you and how you want to reflect that in your actions going forward, which may look like a tough decision between your relationship with your daughter and your commitment to your morals and principles. And now on to the update. Some asked that I update when I could. A lot has happened the past few weeks, so I thought that I would share. Not long after I posted, Amy came to me to apologize. I was surprised because, based on the responses I was getting, I was preparing to apologize to her. She said she lashed out because she was trying to reconcile her relationship as she knew it with the new information about who he was. I asked her if she really had no idea, and she said that, looking back, there were warning signs, but nothing that would lead her to believe that he was overtly racist. I guess being long distance and liking him so much allowed her to remain mostly ignorant. She wanted to know what she should do, and I told her that I was going to talk to Dan and try to get a beat on who he is, apart from his parents. She seemed to think that that was a good idea. A lot of people said that I was being unfair labeling him a racist before, but now that we have spoken, I can tell you for certain that he is a racist. A lot of you were trying to figure out what Amy meant by him not being wholly racist, and I think I can answer that now. He told me that he doesn't harbor any hatred for anyone, but he believes the white race will go extinct eventually, and he is proud of who he is and of his race, and he doesn't want that to happen. Which I guess also explains his father's comments about white grandbabies. I told him that his heritage is nothing to be proud of, and that his beliefs will have no place in our family or in my household. He said that Amy seemed to understand him, and that I might have no choice of whether or not his beliefs will be a part of my family. I said that he was right. If Amy wants to move forward with the wedding, then there is nothing that I can do to stop her. He sneered and told me that he supposed that we had nothing more to discuss and that that was the end of it. I then told Amy what him and I discussed, and she decided to call it all off. She broke up with him, and he has not taken too kindly to it. He's been to the house a lot, so we decided to get her an apartment back in the city. Her work is going to start phasing back into the office anyway, so the timing works out. His parents called us and came to speak with us a few times. At first, they were just trying to figure out what was going on, but it quickly turned into them berating us. I got some Reddit flack for not standing up to them initially, so this time, I made sure they knew where I stood. And now in the comments, well, this is horrifying, but also a huge relief. Amy found out now. She sought out counsel from someone that she trusted, and Dan showed his ass and made her decision really easy. Good for you for keeping the lines of communication open in your family so that Amy knew she could come to you for support and advice. Definitely. I'm so glad the daughter dodged a bullet. OP handled this amazingly. I agree. And why are the parents so invested with him being with a city girl? They've come over multiple times? I think either OP has money or they think that her family does. Or just more money than they have. I can't think of any other reason these parents are so tied up in this, except maybe their son being upset. But wouldn't they be glad that he's not with someone who doesn't share their values? There is another reason here, and I bet that it's money. They obviously already looked down on OP's family for being city, so what other reason would these people be all up in this? Money and maybe appearances? They threw an engagement party, so people are probably wondering what happened, on both sides. If Amy decides to be very honest with, turns out that I wouldn't be the only one wearing white fabric over my face on the wedding day, rather than a diplomatic, we have different visions for our future, so I think it's best that we go separate ways, it won't look great for the family. Also, the idea their precious pure boy was rejected? Fetch the smelling salts! Pride, the white and normal kind, is a hell of a drug. I decided that I wanted to wear a white veil at my wedding, not a white hood. OP, if they decide to become more confrontational, I suggest getting a Ring doorbell and camera just in case things escalate. If they are small-minded country folk, they may try to push you around through their connections, so you better be prepared for more harassment and find a good advocate, like a lawyer, that can help you. And OP says, we are having cameras installed this week, so we're just a bit ahead of you there. It hasn't been too bad so far, just Dan crying on our front lawn and his parents going on about how we are in the wrong. I'm hoping that this is as far as it goes, but I'm prepared in case it gets worse. I hate to say it like this, but sounds like the parents of Dan are more upset that they have lost breeding stock to push their BS. Any other women Danny Boy has ever dated never tolerated their BS, and they're getting desperate to continue the line. That's the vibe that I'm getting from them. Amy is really fair-haired, and I think they saw her as being more white because she's blonde. Quote, I got some Reddit flack for not standing up to them initially. Frickin' am I the asshole demanding that everyone stamp around in size 20 boots straight out of the gate? This is his daughter's future that he's talking about. You have got to get the lay of the land. Understand who you're talking to and where they're coming from. You know, read the room. It's no good berating people from the back of the party about how they're all disgusting racists. That just makes you look out of control and dismissible. You have to manage things to the end. It's not like anything he said was going to change the mind of morons just because he has a mouth. What he actually did got out of the madness and took his daughter with him, which wasn't guaranteed from the outset. I'm from the boonies. My town doesn't have a stoplight, let alone sidewalks or city water. If you are city folk at a party hosted by a local openly racist family, standing your ground is the wrong thing to do, period. It could easily become dangerous. Suggesting that OP should have said something then is a very city folk thing to say. Yeah, I'm from a northern bumfrick town, and that's how you get the crap kicked out of ya. Way more bar brawls started over talking crap in a place like that than people think. Hell, even if it doesn't immediately escalate, there's a good chance that you'll get a glass mug shattered over your skull as you're walking to your car. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.